Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us here today. As we enter the final months of 2022, it's incumbent upon me to continue to update our citizens on our priorities, today specifically surrounding public safety. You know, I had someone share with me that I might reconsider another press conference. But these dialogues are vital to keep each of you listening today updated on the continuous work that is happening from our law enforcement agencies and to state facts, priorities, and most importantly, advancements in crime reduction. Over the last 2 weeks, it's very clear that we have seen an influx of incidents. In each of those and incidents over the years, there was harm and hurt to family members. Whether you have been an actual victim of a crime, watching the news, or reading the stories, if an incident has occurred in your neighborhood, it has traumatized all of us and impacts all of us. Tragic murders like those of Devin Page in April of 2022, Kevin Hardy in July of 2020, most recently, Allison Rice, Christopher Worley, 2020, Donta Thompson in January 2022, Jeffrey Follins in June of 2022, Lewis Robinson in May of 2018, all families that are plagued with the loss of a loved one. I share the heartbreak for all families of the victims because these are citizens of our community. They are family members, our loved ones, that we're losing to violence. While I certainly believe in the power of prayer and will continue to pray for our community and those who have lost loved ones, I also know that people want to see these cases solved and to achieve justice. I'm not numb to violent incidents that bring pain and disruption to our city. Public safety requires whole government, whole law enforcement, whole judicial, and whole community approach. Faith without works is dead. But in order to build, improve, and rapidly respond, we must keep faith in the systems and in each other. In an effort to create a safer, stronger Baton Rouge, my administration is heavily focused on addressing our city's crime through law enforcement, mental and behavioral health services, and community engagement. Today, I'm joined by many of our partners in peace, fellow city parish leaders, law enforcement agencies at the local, state, and federal level that have been working collaboratively over the last year or more, with increased collaboration in 2022 to implement strategies from our public safety partnership led by the Department of Justice. Baton Rouge Police Department, East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, the District Attorney, U.S. Marshals, ATF, DEA, FBI, and USAO. These partners meet bi-weekly to acknowledge the actions completed. They discuss issues to be addressed, and they identify the actions to be taken week after week to address violent crime in Baton Rouge and throughout the parish. The people standing here today will often tell you in meetings, I'm clear on two things. How are we building a stronger community and mitigating crime? What are the decisive actions that we are doing to address violent crime right now? Let me tell you what we are doing and the path forward. Enforcing laws, investigating gun-involved crimes, and prosecuting cases will remain the foundational element of the East Baton Rouge Violence Collaborative's Violence Reduction Strategy. Again, the priority for all partners is to identify and concentrate their efforts to investigate, prosecute, and reduce gun violence. Secondly, Baton Rouge Police Department is focusing on street crimes, narcotics, special operations, and specific sub-zones and districts where we are experiencing high incidence of shootings, and how we prioritize assigning personnel and more aggressive recruitment to increase boots on the ground. Let me just say that even though we have seen successes in our efforts, we know that we still have a ways to go towards victory. But this is certainly a reflection of what we are doing and what we plan to do. I'm grateful for the comments, the emails, and calls that my office receives, because transparency is vital. I would be remiss if I did not share a big frustration many of us standing here today and throughout the community have continued to share. In many of these incidents, far too often we are seeing re-arrest of the same individuals who have already been arrested for other serious crimes. This is not finger pointing or placing blame, it's telling the truth. It's the reality of what we are dealing with. And we cannot turn a blind eye to continuous offenses of the same group of individuals causing problems, committing crimes in our community without accountability. Now, the next conversation our leadership teams will be having will be with the arms of criminal justice, including judicial and law enforcement. At this time, I'm going to ask the Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul to come forward and give an update on our strategy moving forward. Chief Paul.
Thank you, Mayor President. Good afternoon. Baton Rouge Chief of Police Murphy Paul. First, I want to begin by reassuring the community that the men and women in law enforcement are working hard to reduce crime in the city of Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish. I'm sure you're aware that there's no quick fix approach to violent crime, no singular solution. It's a complex issue. And it involves a consistent, collective, and continued effort. A holistic approach, and law enforcement is one part of that system. One strategy that we use to address violent crime in our city is community-based efforts, involvement of youth programs, our community walk, our citizens academies, our work with our partners. And these community-based public safety programs empower the community to protect itself through violence reduction strategies. And we have seen progress in these areas during our Safe Hope Summer Initiative. But then there are law enforcement efforts. These are data-driven policing, updating technology, standing up operations and task force with our federal partners. And we are focusing in very specific micro areas in our community. And it's becoming an important tool to reduce crime. Provides short-term solutions and a rapid response to community concerns. And I'm here today to help shine a light on some recent cases and to share all that I can this time on open investigations that have prompted both community and media questions. This day in particular was selected just yesterday based on investigative intelligence, which suggested that gun violence between specifically identified gangs in our city are looming. The violence is looming, and my idea is a more informed community is a safer community. And so here we are addressing these issues. I have some Baton Rouge Police Department officers that are here with me that make up the senior command staff of the Baton Rouge Police Department, and other partners as well that are behind me. I want to talk about enforcement. Let's be clear about this. We are not soft on crime. Enforcement is critical. We cannot implement these strategies without the enforcement piece. Prevention and intervention are other components. But when it comes to the enforcement piece, we have made more than 3,100 felony arrests this year, 355 juveniles, and we've seized more than 1,366 firearms. We've done that by focusing in micro areas in our community, targeting the small group of individuals who are involved in crime, and we will continue our enforcement efforts in this city to put criminals in jail. But we cannot arrest our way out of this problem. Crime is a socioeconomic issue, and we have to deal with the root causes of violence. And we are working with our community partners and law enforcement partners to identify who those criminals are. I'll give you a couple examples. In Spanish Town, we had a murder, and we received a call from a community partner who told us to look at Luke Simmons. Our detectives investigated, developed Luke Simmons as a suspect. And we learned in that process that we had just arrested him from another homicide. He bonded out on that particular homicide, and he committed another. So if you know the whereabouts of Luke Simmons, our U.S. Marshal Task Force is actively looking for him. He is dangerous. We've arrested him twice for homicides, and we're asking you to do the right thing. Pick up the phone and call Crime Stoppers. Let me be clear about this message. There's someone in his inner circle who knows where he is. We will catch him. Call Crime Stoppers and get the reward, because we're going to catch him anyway. But there's somebody out there who knows his whereabouts. We've directed our street crime unit to operate in areas of the city, micro areas of the city. We've identified those areas through the partnership with our District Attorney's Office Crime Strategy Unit. At my direction, our street crime unit was in the 1st District in an area known as Mall City, doing what they were directed to do. Subsequent to their observations, they observed the traffic violation and a male in a car with a mask on. They initiated a traffic stop after seeing a traffic violation, and there was a chase. The suspect in the vehicle refused to stop. And unfortunately, there was an accident involving one of our citizens. One of the individuals in the suspect vehicle died as a result of his injuries. The male driver ran. He was apprehended by our detectives. We learned that we had just arrested him in the first week of September for a homicide, for an attempted homicide. And that we arrested him before he had been charged with a previous homicide. We're asking the community to lift those from our community who were involved in that accident up in prayers, as one is still in the hospital, for a speedy recovery. Pray for him. But we believe, based on the information that was provided to us, that we prevented a shooting incident that day. I understand the concern of the citizens in getting involved in chases and pursuits, and we have a policy for that, and there's a policy on that. But based on what I've been presented, we prevented a shooting that day. Our detectives who were called out because a gun store was burglarized near Hammond Air. And because the detectives had just recently arrested juveniles for a similar type burglary, they were able to use that information and identify a potential suspect. I want to thank the juvenile court judge who made it mandatory that that juvenile offender wore a tracking device. Because it is that tracking device that we were able to get information from that put him on the scene of the crime, and we were able to get a search warrant at a residence and seize all but one of the vehicles that was stolen from that gunshot. 14 and 15-year-old juveniles. Our police officers are working hard to keep you safe. And we're going to continue doing that. Now, we understand that the recent incidents are concerning to this community. They're concerning to me. They're concerning our police officers. If you hear the conversations we have every Monday morning when we talk about how can we identify those individuals responsible, how can we work with the community, and we will never stop holding them accountable. We're going to keep arresting them. But we have to focus on those core issues. I understand that there are a lot of questions that you want to know. I want you to be respectful of some of the investigations that we have. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of misinformation. Let me be clear. I am proud of the work that the men and women standing behind me are doing. I believe we represent some of the finest in law enforcement. I'm proud of them. And I know that this community is as well. We will never stop working hard and exhausting all investigative leads on the homicides that our mayor mentioned. As your chief, I promise you that. I assure you that there is not a stone that's not being unturned. It's all hands on deck, and we will continue to do that. You have my promise as your chief of police.
As you heard the chief say, there are indeed no shortcuts to reducing crime. Our work, of course, will not be limited to the action steps that we talked about, but they are certainly critical measures to curbing crime in our community. As I close, I want to reiterate my commitment as the mayor to the investments that are necessary to heal and motivate our most hurting communities, particularly those most disinvested portions. Some questions about these investments, or some question these investments, I should say. Allow me to explain why these investments are as essential as other part of our public safety measures. You see, when we reduce the number of those in our community who are hopeless and without support, we will see the number of those who choose violence decrease. We must work as hard as we can to give our young people avenues to be productive. Far too many of our young people are choosing violence. It is our responsibility to give every young person the option to choose education, purpose, and productivity. We all recognize that a hopeless generation is a reckless generation. And if you want to be part of the solution in our fight against violence in our community, please join our safe, hopeful, and healthy conversations and meetings that we have every third Wednesday of the month at the River Center Library. This work collaborates community members to take action and work towards shared solutions. And I really believe that we all share a common goal of wanting to have a safe, hopeful, and healthy community. Every community member, faith leader, and stakeholder that wants to see change should continue to join our community work. And as I continue to work with our law enforcement partners to improving the prioritization of gun violence cases for investigation and prosecution, as well as continuing to strengthen how we collaborate with our local, state, and federal partners. Thank you, and we will take questions now.
Mayor, as we take questions, we're going to start over there on that side. Chris, if you're first, that's fine, unless Fox News has something, and let's not forget two behind different ones, we're going to go this way. Okay, Chris Nakamoto with WBRC. This question is probably better for the chief there. You just alluded to the fact that we have the intelligence shows that there's a gang problem in our city looming. Can you touch on a little more about that? What's fueling it? And back to Allison Rice, do you believe that her murder possibly could have been tied to some sort of gang initiation?
So let's go to the first. You know, when we get briefed, there are gangs, and we're going to talk about the active. Based on our conversations with our intelligence personnel, our law enforcement partners, and our Truce Initiative, we have around 8 groups or gangs that are actively, we believe, engaged in violence in the city of Baton Rouge. So 8 is that number. As it relates to any questions related to, we're going to ask our commander to come up to answer any questions you have related to that.
Lieutenant Hines, I'm the commander of the Violent Crime Unit. There's not a lot that I'm going to get into regarding that investigation. It's active. There's a lot of things being looked at that I'm not going to go over right now. I do understand that there was a rumor going around that this was some sort of gang initiation and this was a targeted attack. We have zero indication that that's the case. And that's all I can give you on that right now. If we had any inkling that that was the case, we would put it out for safety of the public. But as of right now, everything that we see, I can very confidently say that that was not the case.
There's been so much misinformation that's been placed out there on social media, all the rest. Can you guys address that and talk about whether or not any of those rumors were vetted out and
What
how that
rumors?
complicates your jobs?
What rumors in particular?
About a witness possibly contacted BRPD and wasn't allowed to take a report?
That is absolutely incorrect. Absolutely incorrect. And I'll say this about it. If there's somebody out there that has some information, please call us. Please call us. We have talked to everybody that we know of. And that may be nobody, it may be 100 people. I'm not going to give that information either. But we have talked to everybody that is willing to talk to us. If there's somebody out there, please call us. Call Crime Stoppers, 344-7867. Especially regarding that case, there is a reward, from what I understand, and this is the case of Allison Rice.
Yeah, let me talk on that for a second. Yeah. Crime Stoppers obviously is an avenue for the public to be able to call, remain anonymous for any tips related to crimes in Baton Rouge. We offer up to $5,000 for any homicide. We value no life any different than any other. But we are aware that there is a private group of concerned citizens and business owners that have put together a reward for a separate reward for information on the Allie Rice case. But I know that they would like for anybody that wants to claim that reward, and I believe it may be up to $35,000 right now. Anybody that wants to claim that reward, that they contact Crime Stoppers so that we could vet the information and make sure the person does remain anonymous. But that is a separate independent reward that is being offered by that group of concerned businesses and citizens.
Yes, do we know where exactly these gangs are in the parish that you keep talking about?
So those individuals operate in different areas. But what I can tell you is right now we're following the data. The operation I spoke of earlier, where I stated that we had police officers in the area that was involved in the chase and some guns were seized, and I believe we prevented a shooting. Based on the recent data that we have, let me be clear, this data can change at different times. It's not unique to a gang or a group. However, it is based on shooting incidents. I'm going to ask everyone to go to our website, BatonRougePoliceDepartment.com. You should be able to access it there. Follow the link to find your district. In that, you should see what district you live in. Our focus areas in the 1st district of the city of Baton Rouge will be in the 1st district and B2 zone, subzone. Go to our website, find that area. If you live in that area, if you live in 1C3, 1C1 in the 1st District, you will see heavy law enforcement presence. You will see our tactical units. You will see our K-9 units. You will see our aviation units. We are not there for the good law-abiding citizens. We are there to protect you, not to enforce anything on you. We are there to identify the bad actors and to stop the shootings in that area. That is the 1st District. If you live in the 3rd District, go to our website, look for 3D2, 3D2. If you live in that area, you will see a heavy law enforcement presence. We are there to address the uptick in shootings in that vicinity. If you live in the 2nd District, that is 2D1, 2D1. You will see our K-9 unit. You will see our aviation unit. You will see our street crime units. We are there to identify those individuals who are involved in group activity and gun violence in our city. If you live in the 4th District of the city of Baton Rouge, go to our website, look for 4F2, 4F2 and 4C1. If you live in those areas, you will see heavy law enforcement presence over the next couple of weeks. That is based on specific data that has been provided to us. We will not tolerate the gun violence in this city, and we ask the community to be patient and support us when you see us out there in our enforcement actions. Now, let me be clear on this. There's somebody out there who knows somebody who's involved in criminal activity. When we talk to community leaders, they tell us who the bad actors are. They tell us, all of our community members. So when we come in that area that I just spoke of, and we know who those individuals are who are involved in violent crime in our city, just know that we're there based on intelligence, information, and please give our police officers the support.
Do you have any new details about any of the homicides that have happened over this past week?
Yes, we do have an update on those.
Last night, around 11:30, our officers and our detectives responded to 650 West McKinley. When they got there, they located a victim, 25-year-old male victim that had been shot and killed. At this time, in fact, right now, up at our violent crime unit, they have a suspect in custody that they're interviewing. Following that interview, from what I'm being told, he's likely going to be charged with first-degree murder. And that was a domestic-style incident.
With the gangs, you mentioned there's about 8 groups. Are these established gangs in the area, or are these newer gangs, and what's kind of causing this to be a more heightened issue?
No, there's,
that
look,
we're focusing on now?
I understand that this is a sensitive topic for some in our community when I say gangs. Let me be clear. There are gangs in the city of Baton Rouge. All right? There's criteria that we use. It has to be a criminal nexus. But the groups that I'm speaking of, just go to their social media websites. Just listen to their songs. They tell you who they are. And when people tell you who they are, sometimes you have to believe them. They self-identify as group and gang members.
Katie, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. I know you guys are saying really tight-lipped about this Ali Rice case, but what can you tell the public? Like, where are you guys in the case? Like, is this going to be solved? What's going on?
What I can tell you is that our detectives are exhausting every investigative lead. They're exhausting every investigative effort. They're working hard. We get briefed on this. Promise you, our detectives are working hard. What I ask this community to do is please, please lift the family up in prayer. To hear the father's cries when you talk to him. The family is in pain, they're hurting, they're mourning. And I'm asking you to be respectful of that specifically when we put out misinformation. That hurts the family. That questions the integrity of our police officers. That interferes with our investigative efforts to go out there and find the person or persons who are responsible for this crime. Please lift the family up in prayers during this time of mourning.
What is an actual plan moving forward to hopefully either reduce crime or get a hold of it or something? Because a lot of people in Baton Rouge are simply saying, we're scared, they're afraid to go out at night. And Mayor, to you as well, same question, that a lot of people are just saying they want to leave Baton Rouge at this point.
Yeah.
You want to go first, and I'll go last.
Okay, yeah. The efforts I just spoke about, Karen, you know, we got a lot of efforts that are going out there. We're working with our federal partners to identify. We've arrested more people this year than we've ever arrested before. So we know arresting our way is not the way out of this problem. That doesn't mean we're going to stop arresting. Our police officers are making felony arrests, whether it's stolen cars, whether it's shooting incidents, violent crime, every single day. And until we deal with the root causes of crime, we will never arrest our way out of this problem, no matter how many people we arrest. We got to start educating ourselves out of this problem, because we got too many young black men that are dropping out of high school. We got to faith-base our way out of this problem, because we don't have enough young folks going to church and getting the word and understand how important it is. We have to understand that we are dealing with some challenging times right now. Depreciation in family values. But we're going to keep working with our community, and we will never give up on them. But we're going to keep putting those individuals in jail. And we will, as a community, I do believe it, get crime down.
Let me answer the second part of her question. First of all, I'm going to reiterate some of the plans of actions that I said, the steps forward. And let me start with saying that, of course, we are going to continue with our East Baton Rouge Violence Collaborative Violence Reduction Strategy. We are seeing results. Secondly, as you heard the chief say, and I think he said it very distinctly, that we are going to hone in on those areas where we know that there is a heavy presence of criminal activity. He spoke to those by districts, by zones, and he specifically said that you will see an elevated police presence. That's number 2 in terms of a plan of action. Number 3, as I said earlier, we're going to continue to engage our community partners who have been involved with us, whether it's in the mental health space, whether it's in the behavioral health space, whether it's in the youth development space, to continue to address those systemic issues that we know are root causes to crime. Those are just 3 action steps that we're taking. Now, let me speak as someone who loves this city. Let me speak from the bottom of my heart about this great city in which we all live in. I refuse to give up hope on the city of Baton Rouge and parish of East Baton Rouge. You know what? Even in the midst of the challenges that we're having with public safety, I hear people every day who believe in Baton Rouge. I hear more people who come up to me and say, Mayor, how can we help? I hear business people who said, we want to be part of the solution. I hear more people who say, we love Baton Rouge. This is our home. We're not going to let anybody run us away. So I know there are some people who may be a little afraid. There may be some people who have elevated concerns. I get that. But I hear more people who want to stay put in their community and work to solve the problems and issues that we have. And that is certainly what fuels me as a leader, and also because I know the greatness, the potential, and possibilities of Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge Parish.
We're going to take the last question right here.
So with all of this information, these students on the campus are terrified, especially the ones who live on
I'm going to let the chief come up, but I'm glad you asked that question because prior to our press conference today, we had a meeting with all of the campuses, with LSU, Southern University, BRCC, and we had representation not only from the administration, but we had representation from the student government associations as well, and they were part of helping us craft a path forward to help sustain safety with our students in the community. Part of that was, and you mentioned it, I think, you talked about the misinformation that often goes around on campuses. And one of our initiatives will be to help bring closure as it relates to communication with our student leaders on campus, with the administration. But we also talked about taking a specific initiative right now where we can help our students understand some specific steps that they can take to be safe. And so we'll be pushing that out. Chief, do you want to add anything to that conversation?
Sure. You know, that's one of the things we talked about in the meeting, and also with our detectives and their frustration with their investigative efforts. When there's misinformation out there or toxic information that is interfering with that, and that's obviously negatively impacting people's emotions and fears. So one of it was talking about how can we create credible messengers to tell the truth, and creating a system with all law enforcement bodies and our university systems to put out factual information. Sometimes when people don't know, they seek things, information from sources that may not necessarily represent facts. 3 things that we're doing immediately. I talked about earlier those things. Our street crimes, narcotics, special operations, you heard the mayor talk about that in those areas. There will be both covert and overt operations in those areas going on. Let me be clear about that. It's not just a law enforcement presence. We've reassigned personnel from specialized divisions as well as administrative positions to increase personnel in our major assaults division and our uniform patrol to focus on non-fatal shooting incidents. That's where our focus will be, and to increase that presence in targeted neighborhoods. But I talked earlier about, look, we cannot do these strategies without boots on the ground, right? We have to fill these academy classes. Right now we have an academy class that's probably a little past halfway through the process, so please lift them up so that they can graduate. That's more boots on the ground. We have a graduation tomorrow. We got 6 police officers from other agencies who've come over and want to be part of the BRPD family. And that graduation is tomorrow. So we're going to have 6 more highly qualified law enforcement officers out there on the street. We also this year have about 4 police officers from who had left the police department and now have come back. I just think we just interviewed 2 of those, and 2 are coming back shortly. We just finished those interviews. We are currently interviewing for our next academy class, which begins in January. So help us fill the bodies so that we can have that presence that we need. That is GEAUXBRPD.com. We would love to host a recruiting event at LSU so we can talk about the work and talk about some of these things and encourage some of our LSU students. We would like to do that at Southern University, Baton Rouge Community College as well, to get those numbers up. So those are some of the things that we're doing.
Chief, just one more question.
And we did call last question, guys.
Well, but somebody asked about a rumor, and that witness is watching. If somebody can respond to that, his whole thing is, Commander, if you can get back up, number 1, to call a witness coming forward saying that that's a rumor. What message are you sending to witnesses? And number 2, his whole article, if you would have read it, says that he reached out Friday morning to give information to BRPD. He didn't get a call back till Saturday. Is that not important to return the call?
What was your question, Rick?
Are you guys not going to respond to that?
I'll absolutely respond to that. If anybody thinks that we're not taking any of these cases serious, they are gravely mistaken. Gravely mistaken. If there's a witness out there that feels as though we haven't taken his report, that haven't taken his side of the story, he needs to get in touch with us. Tell him to call 389-4869. That's our homicide office. If you don't think we're taking this seriously, you are terribly mistaken. And I am highly offended by that, because those are my people.
And he's offended when someone's saying it's nothing more than a rumor.
Well, I'm telling you right now, it is a rumor that we are ignoring a witness.
Commander, thank you. Sir.
That's a hideous rumor.
Guys, I want to thank everyone for coming out today. We take this very seriously. We're going to keep the lines of communications open, and this means a lot.
Just one more question. It's about, you've asked, judges, go ahead and put stricter bonds on these repeat criminals. Have you talked to them? I mean, what is it? We've said this before, and now we're seeing this over and over again. What's the plan for this?
So I think, look, the lines of communication have been there when it comes to all those parties who are part of the criminal justice system. That's one part of it. So we're working with all of those agencies that are part of the criminal justice system to improve on those areas, okay? Thank you.
Guys, we're going to go out this way. Y'all, that door is